Stop being available. Start being valuable. Listen carefully. This might sting a little, but it might just change your life. You've made yourself too easy to access, too easy to ignore, too easy to replace. You answer every call, reply to every message instantly, shows up for people who wouldn't even cross the street for you. And then you wonder, why don't they respect me? Let me tell you something straight. Respect is not given to those who are always available. It's earned by those who know their worth. You see, when you're always there, people stop valuing your presence. When you're always saying yes, your yes loses power. When you make everyone else a priority, you quietly become an option. And life doesn't reward options. Life rewards value. Now here's the shift you need to make. Stop chasing attention. Start building value. Value is what makes people wait for you. Value is what makes people respect your time. Value is what separates the overlooked from the unforgettable. You don't get that by being everywhere for everyone. You get that by being focused, disciplined, and selective. Let's get real. Every time you drop your priorities for someone else, you're sending a message to the world. My time doesn't matter. My goals can wait. I'm not that important. And guess what? The world believes what you show it, but the moment you flip that mindset, everything changes. When you start protecting your time, when you start saying no without guilt, when you invest in your growth instead of people who drain you, people notice. Not because you became rude, but because you became rare. Understand this clearly. Availability makes you common. Value makes you powerful. You don't need to be cold. You don't need to disappear. But you do need boundaries. You do need standards. And you absolutely need self-respect from today forward. Stop being the person who is always just there. Be the person who is going somewhere. Stop giving your energy to people who don't invest in you. Start investing in yourself, your skills, your mindset, your future. Because when you become valuable, you don't have to beg for attention. Attention comes looking for you. So here's the question. Are you going to keep being available? Or are you finally ready to become valuable? The choice is yours. But understand this, your life will only rise when your standards do. Let's get one thing straight. Being constantly available is not a strength. It's a silent mistake that slowly chips away at your value. When you're always there, always ready, always responding, people stop seeing you as important. Why? Because there's no effort required to reach you, no anticipation, no respect for your time. You've made access to you so easy that it no longer feels special. Think about it. The things people value the most are never the things they can have anytime, anywhere, without effort. The moment something becomes unlimited and always accessible, it loses its edge. And when you do that with yourself, your time, your attention, your energy, you send a message without even speaking. I'm always here. I have nothing better going on. Now that might not be true, but perception becomes reality. You reply instantly, even when you're busy. You pick up every call, even when it interrupts your focus. You show up for people who only remember you when it's convenient for them, and slowly, without realizing it, you train people to treat you like an option instead of a priority. That's the danger. Because the more available you are, the less people feel they need to respect your time. They assume you'll always be there. They delay responding to you, cancel plans on you, overlook you. Because in their mind, you're not going anywhere. And here's the harsh truth. People make time for what they value. If they're not making time for you, it's because you've made yourself too easy to access without any cost. But this is where your power comes in. You don't fix this by becoming rude or cutting everyone off. You fix it by becoming intentional. By understanding that your time is limited and it deserves to be protected. You don't need to answer every message right away. You don't need to be present for every conversation. You don't need to drop your priorities just to prove you care. Because real value doesn't come from constant presence. It comes from meaningful presence. When you start choosing when and where to show up, something shifts. People begin to notice your absence. They begin to respect your time. They start to understand that access to you is not automatic, it's earned, and that's when your value rises. Because now, when you show up, it matters. When you speak, people listen. When you give your time, it's appreciated, not expected. So understand this clearly. Being available all the time doesn't make you important. It makes you predictable. And predictable people are easy to overlook. But when you start protecting your time, focusing on your growth, and being selective with your energy, you become something different. You become someone people can't ignore. That's the shift. Let's talk about that habit that's quietly holding you back, saying yes too much. On the surface, it feels right. It feels polite. It feels like you're being helpful, supportive, easy to work with. But underneath that constant yes is a dangerous pattern. You're giving away your time, your energy, and your focus without thinking about the cost. And make no mistake, there is always a cost. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your goals, you're saying no to something that does. Every time you prioritize someone else's needs over your own growth, you push your own progress further down the line. You delay your dreams while helping someone else build theirs. Now ask yourself, how long can you keep doing that before it starts hurting your future? Because here's the truth. People who say yes to everything don't become respected, they become used. When you never push back, never set limits, never protect your time, people start expecting your availability, not appreciating it, expecting it. They assume you'll always agree, always show up, always adjust your schedule for them. And the moment you finally say no, they act surprised, sometimes even upset. Why? Because you trained them to believe your time wasn't valuable. That's the trap. You think you're being kind, but you're actually lowering your own standards. You're teaching people that your priorities come second. You're telling the world that your time is flexible, negotiable, and easy to take. But high-value individuals don't operate like that. They understand something most people ignore. Asterisk, time is the most expensive thing you own. You can make more money. You can recover lost opportunities, but you cannot get your time back. So they guard it. They respect it. They don't hand it out just because someone asked nicely. Now, this doesn't mean you become selfish or cold. It means you become selective. You start asking better questions. Does this help me grow? Does this align with where I'm going? Is this worth my time right now? And if the answer is no, you say no, calmly, without guilt, because saying no is not rejection. It's direction. It's choosing your future over temporary approval. It's you deciding that your goals matter just as much as anyone else's. It's you stepping into control of your own life. And here's what happens when you start doing that. People begin to respect your boundaries. They think twice before asking for your time. They start valuing your yes because it's no longer guaranteed. That's power. So stop trying to please everyone. Stop saying yes just to avoid discomfort. Stop sacrificing your progress for acceptance. Because at the end of the day, you're not here to be available for everything. You're here to be effective at what matters. And that only happens when your yes becomes rare and your no becomes strong. Let's get real about something most people ignore. Your time is your identity, not your words, not your intentions. Your time. Because at the end of the day, how you spend your time is the clearest evidence of who you are and what you truly value. You can say you want success, discipline, growth, but if your time is going in the opposite direction, then your life will follow that direction too. Time doesn't lie. You say you want a better future, but where are your hours going? Scrolling, waiting, giving attention to people who don't add value to your life? That's not judgment, that's awareness. And awareness is where change begins, because here's the truth most people don't want to face. You don't become successful by accident. You become it by allocation. Asterisk. Every hour you invest is a vote for your future or a vote against it. When you constantly give your time to distractions, drama, and people who don't respect you, you're sending a powerful message, not just to them, but to yourself. My time isn't important. My goals can wait. I'll get serious later. But later turns into never. And that's how people stay stuck, not because they lack talent, but because they mismanage time. Now flip that mindset. Imagine waking up and treating your time like it actually matters. You don't just go through the day, you direct it. You don't react to everything. You decide what deserves your attention. That's where power lives. High-value individuals don't have more time than you. They just use it differently. They understand that time is a limited resource, and they treat it like an investment, not entertainment. They invest in learning. They invest in building skills. They invest in improving their mindset, their health, their future. And because of that, their life starts to reflect those choices. You can't spend your days like everyone else and expect a different life. It doesn't work that way. Your habits shape your hours, and your hours shape your life. So if your life isn't where you want it to be, don't just look at your goals, look at your schedule. That's where the truth is, because discipline isn't about doing something big once, it's about doing the right things consistently with your time. It's about saying no to what doesn't matter so you can say yes to what does. And yes, it's uncomfortable at first. It requires sacrifice. It requires focus. It requires you to stop doing things that feel easy but lead nowhere. But that's the price of growth. So here's the shift. Stop treating time like something you have plenty of. Start treating it like something you're running out of, because you are. Every hour matters. Every decision counts. And when you begin to move with that level of awareness, something powerful happens. You stop wasting time trying to prove your worth to others, and you start building a life that proves it for you. Because in the end, your time doesn't just define your worth, it creates it. Let's make something clear. If you don't set boundaries, people will set them for you. And trust me, you're not going to like where they draw the line. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are standards that teach people how to treat you. And if you have no standards, you give the world permission to treat you any kind of way. That's why so many people feel disrespected, overlooked, and taken for granted, not because they're weak, but because they never defined what's acceptable and what's not. You let things slide. You tolerate behavior that bothers you. You stay quiet when you should speak up, and every time you do that, you send a silent message. This is okay. You can keep doing this. I won't do anything about it. And people listen to what you allow, not what you say. Now understand this. Respect doesn't come from being nice all the time. It comes from being clear. Clear about your time. Clear about your energy. Clear about your limits. When you start setting boundaries, some people will get uncomfortable. Some might even push back, not because you're wrong, but because they were benefiting from the version of you that had no limits. And when that version disappears, they feel it. But that discomfort, that's growth, because boundaries force a shift. They separate people who truly respect you from those who only used your availability. They filter out the ones who don't belong in your space. And that's not a loss, that's protection. Let's be real. If someone only values you when you're always available, always saying yes, always sacrificing, that's not respect. That's convenience. And you were never meant to be convenient. You were meant to be respected. Now here's where most people struggle. They think setting boundaries means being rude or aggressive. That's not true. You don't need to shout. You don't need to argue. You just need to be firm. No, I can't do that right now. I'm focusing on something important. That doesn't work for me. Simple. Direct. No explanation needed. Because every time you say no to something that doesn't serve you, you say yes to something that does. And over time, something powerful happens. People begin to take you seriously. They think twice before crossing a line. They respect your space, your time, your decisions, not because you demanded it, but because you demonstrated it. Because at the end of the day, people don't respect words, respect standards. And your boundaries are proof of those standards, so stop fearing that people will leave when you set limits. The wrong ones will. The right ones will adjust. And that's exactly what you need, because a life without boundaries is a life without control. But when you stand firm, protect your energy, and define your limits, you take that control back. And once you have control of your time, your energy, and your space, you stop being someone people take for granted, and you become someone they think twice about losing. Here's where most people lose their power, spend their lives reacting instead of building. Every notification, every message, every opinion pulls their attention in a different direction. They wake up and immediately check their phone. They respond to everything. They jump into conversations, solve other people's problems, chase validation, and by the end of the day, they're exhausted, but they didn't build anything. That's the trap. You feel busy, but you're not progressing. You feel involved, but you're not evolving. You're constantly responding to life instead of creating it. And if you stay in that cycle long enough, you wake up one day realizing you've been available for everyone else's growth, but absent from your own. That's a hard truth, but it's one you need to face. Because the moment you decide to stop reacting and start becoming, everything changes. Becoming means you shift your focus inward. You stop asking, who needs me right now? And start asking, who do I need to become? That question alone will separate you from most people, because growth requires focus. And focus requires discipline. You can't build a powerful life while constantly being distracted. You can't develop skills, strengthen your mindset, or create something meaningful if your attention is always being pulled away. Every time you interrupt your own progress to respond to something that doesn't matter, you weaken your momentum. And momentum is everything. Successful people protect their focus like their life depends on it, because it does. They don't reply instantly to everything. They don't attend every conversation. They don't give their energy to every situation. They choose. They choose what deserves their time. They choose what aligns with their goals. They choose growth over distraction, even when it's uncomfortable. Because let's be honest, building yourself is not easy. It requires long periods of silence, deep work, and sometimes isolation. It requires you to say no to things that feel good in the moment but lead nowhere in the long run, and that's where most people quit. They go back to reacting, back to comfort, back to being available, because it's easier than facing the work required to grow. But easy doesn't build value. Focus does, discipline does, consistency does. So if you want to become someone different, someone stronger, sharper, more valuable, you have to break the habit of constant reaction. You have to stop giving your attention away like it's free, because your attention is your most powerful asset. Where it goes, your life follows. If it goes toward distractions, your life becomes scattered. If it goes toward growth, your life becomes powerful. It's that simple. So here's the shift you need to make. Stop trying to keep up with everything and everyone. Stop feeling the need to respond to every call, every message, every situation. Instead, go build something, build your skills, build your mindset, build your discipline, build a version of yourself that doesn't need approval, only progress. Because when you become focused, when you become intentional, when you become disciplined, you stop reacting to life and you start running it. Let's finish strong. Because this right here is the shift that changes everything. Value attracts. It does not chase. Asterisk. But most people have it backwards. They chase attention, they chase validation, they chase people, opportunities, approval, hoping that if they run fast enough, something will finally choose them. And the more they chase, the more they get ignored. Why? Because chasing sends the wrong signal. It tells the world you're lacking something. It tells people you need them more than they need you. And when that energy shows up, it lowers your perceived value instantly. People don't respect what's chasing them. They respect what they might lose. That's human nature. Now understand this clearly. There's nothing wrong with effort. There's nothing wrong with going after your goals. But there's a difference between pursuing excellence and chasing attention. One builds you, the other drains you. When you focus on becoming valuable, everything shifts. You're no longer trying to convince people to notice you. You're no longer bending yourself to fit into spaces that don't respect you. You're no longer begging for opportunities. Instead, you're building something so strong within yourself that people can't ignore it. Your skills get sharper. Your mindset gets stronger. Your standards get higher. And without you saying a word, people start paying attention. Opportunities start showing up. Better connections come into your life. Doors begin to open. Not because you chased them, but because you became someone worth opening doors. For that's the difference. See, the world responds to value. It always has. If you bring discipline, consistency, focus, and growth into your life, you create a presence that stands out. You become rare in a world full of distractions and excuses, and rare things don't chase, they attract. Think about it. People don't chase average. They chase excellence. They don't run after what's easy to get. They run after what's hard to replace. So the real question is, are you building something that's hard to replace? Or are you still trying to be accepted by people who don't see your worth? Because you can't do both. You can't chase validation and build value at the same time. One requires your attention outward. The other requires your attention inward, and only one of them will change your life. So here's the shift you need to lock in. Stop running after people who don't choose you. Stop forcing connections that don't feel right. Stop lowering your standards just to feel included. Instead, raise your value. Work on your craft. Strengthen your discipline. Elevate your mindset. Respect your time. Become so focused on your growth that chasing becomes unnecessary. Because when you truly level up, when your value becomes undeniable, you won't need to knock on doors. Doors will start knocking on you.